r/Askreddit. What is the most wholesome thing you have seen? Was headed to Oakland from San Francisco through the tube. Trains packed as always. People on BART are good about public transit etiquette in general during commute hours, so nobody's talking or listening to music or anything. When we leave the tube onto the viaduct over the port, one guy answers his phone. Hello, yeah. Oh my god. What hospital? Okay, I'll be there as soon as I can. He hangs up and just looks super distraught. Someone taps him on the shoulder and says my car is parked at West Oakland. Do you need a ride? He agrees and they get off together. Little gesture, but it was uplifting to see someone volunteer for a stranger like that. When I was a preschool teacher, we had one kid who was our certified cheer-upper. If someone was crying, she'd get a tissue, walk over, carefully blot their eyes and make them blow their nose. All while saying, "It's okay, you're okay." Eventually they'd stop crying, she'd take their hand and they'd go play. She was a little angel. I had a teacher in high school who had a reputation as being the super tough/mean, older African American lady. She taught health class. There was a mandatory CPR class that we had to pay for, and there was no way I could pay for anything in those days. CPR day came, and she told me to go with the other students. I gave her a confused look, to which she replied, "You're good, baby." And she had paid for me. Later in the year, I fell asleep in her class. It was a home game day, basketball, and she told me to lay back down after the bell had rung. It was the last period of the day. She told me she'd wake me up before I had to report to the gym. She dimmed the lights, and played some light jazz while she did her work at the computer. I hadn't been sleeping well at home, and I'm guessing she knew. I woke up when she brought the lights back up and she handed me one of her cup of soups she had warmed up. We never really spoke much, but she had my back and I made sure she knew I had hers. The most wholesome, on senior night, they introduce the players and say some stuff about them as they walk to center court, typically with parents arm in arm. When it was almost my time to walk, she saw that I was alone. Bless her heart, she about fell down from her seat running towards me. She put her arm through mine and just looked forward, chin up, proud as hell as they read my stats/grades/etc. I remember that walk and how I wish I had a picture or recording from that day showing how big I must have been smiling. My friends' mothers had tears in their eyes. They made sure to invite me to dinner with them after the game, and I made sure it was okay that I brought my teacher. She politely declined and just told me she was proud of me. After I had graduated, and was a bit better on my feet, I returned to visit her. It was honestly the only thing that could get me back in that place. Each time I'd bring flowers and/or food and made sure to do it in front of students and made sure they knew to respect her. My last week of high school, our lunch lady gave out small gifts to some of the seniors. Just the kids that took the time to chat with her that she got to know more personally. I received a sketchbook with a sweet good luck note in it. I was always in art club and was going to school for fine arts. So she took the time to get all of us a gift that was specific to us. This lady saw hundreds of kids a day and still took the effort to get to know us. A little boy at the airport kept trying to climb over a concrete divider that had active traffic on the other side. His mom was loaded with luggage and kept trying to stop him, but didn't have free hands. My brother-in-law walked up and said, "Hey kid, there's a rule here. You have to keep one foot on the ground at all times. Look around. Everyone has at least 1 foot on the ground." The kid kept trying to climb, but with 1 foot firmly glued to the ground he wasn't in danger anymore. Such a creative and wholesome way to let the kid keep playing while keeping him safe. A friend and I were talking and she said shit in front of the kid of another friend. I dismissed it by saying, "Yeah, she probably knows worse." We asked what was the worst word she knows. She very carefully looked around just in case her parents were around and whispered, "Selfish." I was on what I call a rumpled suit flight. One of those flights on a Friday at 6 from New York to DC, where most of the flight consists of business people in suits drinking $14 double whiskeys. A fellow rumpled suit sat across the aisle from me next to a mother and her kid. When she could, the kid brought down her tray table and a coloring book and started coloring. I didn't hear what was said, but at some point the kid handed the rumpled suit a coloring book and they spent the remainder of the flight coloring and chatting. I was kinda like, I want to color too. I have 2 nieces. At little one's birthday, her friend gave her 2 unicorn toys. She immediately looks at Big Sis with a huge smile. "Look, Big Sis. This one for you. We can both play." She was genuinely so excited to play unicorns with her sister, and it never even occurred to her that T didn't need to give one to her. My heart grew 3 sizes that day. When I was, 11, Dad was driving us to a gathering at my grandma's. There was a woman pulled over on the side of the road. Dad asked if they needed help. She said she'd run out of gas. Dad told her he would get some. So we go into a gas station. Dad explains the situation to the cashier and is prepared to buy a can of gas. There's this other customer that looks like a biker, big dude with tattoos and piercings, who tells Dad he has gas at his house and tells us to get in our cars and follow him. His wife and young son were in the front yard. Turned out this was his sister's house. The guy had fled a hurricane with his family. Nevertheless, he insisted on giving us the gas for free. I read a story once about a woman whose father had died before her wedding and his organs were donated. The man who received his heart walked her down the aisle. Yesterday at work, my boss' 5-year-old daughter was drawing a picture for me and said, "This is you, a princess." And I thought my heart would combust because that was just so sweet. She proceeded to make a little collection of drawings, which she folded into a book, and gave it to me. It was all hearts and rainbows. That was just absolutely wholesome and made me appreciate little kids. Made my day, to be honest. Seeing my 4-year-old nephew share his peanut butter sandwich with his friend at the playground. When I first had foster children placed with me after bedtime, my pit bull would go into each room and check on the kids and then sleep in the hallway. If any woke crying in the night, she would crawl into bed with them. I gifted a used electric wheelchair to a family who couldn't afford one. The kid, maybe 14 years old, was kinda grumpy looking when he arrived, didn't say much. Once we got him in the chair and he was zooming around, he was all smiles. His mother was also super happy. I heard the next day he told his sister to clear off the driveway so he could practice with it, and by the weekend he had gone to a fair. My dad and I were at a stoplight a few blocks away from a grocery store and a homeless man was sitting on the curb. I would have given him some money, but the road was pretty busy. I watched a guy with 2 huge bags of groceries walk up the street and give them to the homeless man, smiley face. It was such a kind gesture I almost cried right there in the car. My 2-year-old nephew giving his 4-month-old sister, my niece, kisses constantly. He won't give anyone else kisses but her. He can barely even speak but clearly already loves his baby sister. It's so adorable. There's a couple who look like they have to be in their 80s I see almost every Saturday morning when I go to the mall to run my errands. They walk around together holding hands. When my youngest was 2/3, he slept in bed with me. I woke up one night to him not there. I panicked and looked around. He was laying and sleeping cuddled next to my oldest son. This is more heard than seen, but I was spending the night at my mom's house for Christmas. Her birthday is on the 25th and we usually go to a movie for it, so it was just easier for me to spend the night so we could go out the next day. Anyway, it's about 2 a.m. and I'm outside having a cigarette, when suddenly I hear one of the neighbors yelling, "What are you doing outside? Get your ass back in." Immediately after I hear a kid yell in protest, followed by, "Dad, I just wanted to see Santa land on the roof." This kid snuck out of bed and out of the house at 2 in the morning when it was probably like 20 F outside, just so he could see Santa. It was really adorable, and also pretty hilarious. In Austin, Texas, my family and I went to a breakfast place. The food was good, the waiters and waitresses were amazing. But they messed up our order. They were short on staff, apparently. Someone had either quit or got fired, and another person had called out that day, so it was only a few people. And it also happened to be one of the busiest times of the week. So, my mother went to go to the bathroom, and when she came out, she noticed our waitress standing at the corner. She was about to cry, or was already crying. I had been waiting and looking out for her the whole time, so I was able to see this. My mother noticed her high stress levels, and asked if she had wanted a hug. The waitress nodded, and said yeah. My mom opened her arms, and brought the waitress into a hug to comfort her. And once the waitress had calmed down enough, my mother came back to the table after making sure she was alright, and told us what happened. I feel lucky to have my mother in my life, I love her so much. A few years ago, I was on my way to catch the bus when a middle-aged woman called me from behind a newspaper stand. She pointed to the bus stop, 1 block down, where a guy was standing holding something. She said he was her son, who just got out of jail after serving time for dealing drugs, and today was his first day trying to make an honest life. He had baked some traditional pastries himself and was trying to sell it on the bus stop, and she wanted to make sure things went right for him on his first day so he would not feel tempted to go back on selling drugs. Then she put some money on my hand, asked me if I could buy some pastry and obviously not tell him she was there. At the stop, I saw the guy, probably in his mid-30s, with this little table of pastries. I bought 3, we chatted a little bit and 1 minute later my bus arrived and I left. It always makes me emotional and warm inside to think how pure a mother's love can be. I'm a record producer. On a particular song the client wanted a child's voice to open it, so the bassist's 10-year-old son came and recorded a vocal part. Once we wrapped, the singer said to the kid, "Musicians get paid." And he handed the kid a £20 note. The bassist then did the same. A small gesture maybe, but in our world making a living is hard and it was amazing to see professionals showing how it ought to be. One Christmas season I saw a young woman, late teens or early 20s, walking through an IKEA picking up things in the huge marketplace area, taking a picture of them, putting them back, and moving on. She was obviously thinking intently about gifts but I was confused, was she making a wish list or something? An employee saw this and asked if they could help her find something. She says, "Oh, no thank you. I'm helping my dad Christmas shop. He works really hard and has very little time, plus when he gets off work his brain is just fried. So every year when I'm on break I go around to a bunch of stores and take pictures of things I think my mom would really like. Then I'll show them to him at home, we talk about them and he picks some out. Then I go back and get them. It's the least I can do for him, plus it's kinda become our little secret Christmas tradition. Mom has no idea." At a concert I saw a buddy walking with his friend who was blind and also somewhat physically disabled. I overheard him telling his blind friend, "Oh man, I was so smashed last night. I couldn't walk or see nothing. Thank God for you and your cane. You were steering us everywhere like a champ. I would have been helpless without you." It was really so heartwarming and you could see how much it meant to his friend to be told how he was the helper, not the person being helped. I'm assuming he was being a little hyperbolic, but the amount of joy I saw brought to his friend's face from his kind words was so heartwarming. I saw a police officer stop traffic to help a turtle safely cross a very busy intersection. He stopped his car, picked up the turtle and moved it to a marsh on the other side of the 4-lane intersection. I forgot a plate for the waffle I was making in the machine at college. I went sprinting across the dining commons to get one because the timer was about to go off. I ran straight toward the plates and this guy was standing there and his immediate gut reaction was to open his arms and hug me. I have no idea who he was and the waffle didn't burn.